Hi everyone, how are you? Make sure that it shows that I'm recording and that my mic is working because I did an hour-and-a-half video last night talking to myself. The recorder had stopped, so sometimes if you push record, it sees it as double and it stops. So anyway, let's see if I can do this. I'll do that. Okay. So YouTube has changed its policy once again, and I guess all social media has done it, where if you are driving, you cannot record, even if you are proving to use hands-free devices, of which I always use. And even being a passenger, because people could argue it that way. So I need to take down at least one video in which I was driving as I was showing you the very rural aspects of Wright County. And all that it has to hold is when I first heard about this case, I thought it was quite humorous in my mind to imagine these 7M execs coming up from LA to defend their client and seeing this beautiful untouched land with all of these prairies, and they'd be going, did we just land in a Little House on the Prairie episode? What happened? Literally, it is Little House on the Prairie land. Much of it was filmed here. They would have their sets in LA and be based in LA, but the footage of the prairies and stuff is out here from Minnesota. This is very beautiful. It has a lot of natural prairies, and this area is very, very remote. Wright County is the largest county in the state. Most of our little cities out here don't have police departments of their own. We have the Wright County Sheriff. They are overworked and underpaid. They are absolutely amazing. I have never been anything other than absolutely impressed every time that I've interacted with them. And this is their haven here. They have this brand new facility out here where they have the new jail, the new government center, and this justice center. So this is where the courthouse is that is handling the case with 7M and Katie Joy Paulson. So with the full names going into that, you have Robert Shin, Miranda, and James Derrick in their company that they had for dance as 7M versus Katie Joy Paulson, otherwise known as her channel, which is WOACB, or AKA Without a Crystal Ball. Those are public documents. That is the way that the lawsuits are filed. Now, what I wanted to do is just kind of put this intro here in front of my playlist, because for those of you that want to know what's really going on, how did we get here? What happened? How is it this? I have every word of the initial complaint and every detail of the hearings in which I have attended, where I have picked up on body language and nuances between the attorneys and have exclusive content for what is really going on. The reason why I did that is because I saw that Katie Joy was posting things that sounded very unusual for the courthouse out here, as I am from the West Coast and I've led a more progressive and a speedier life, I guess. When I came out here to Minnesota, and anything in which I've had to deal with the government or Wright County itself in the courthouse, I've been really shocked at how lackadaisical they are, I guess. Very, very much into inaction, reactivity, as opposed to proactivity, waiting and waiting and waiting until the last minute to do anything, waiting until they're reacting. It's very frustrating, to say the least. And I've had some very frustrating instances in dealing with Wright County, and it's the system at large. It's a bigger problem than what we have in our country, in why prosecutors won't take cases. They want to be sure they're going to win them, etc., etc. A lot of pressure from the prosecutors. There's not room in the jails, especially during COVID. A lot of things going on, both in the criminal and civil. So when Katie Joy was acting like all of these things are happening and it's this big exciting thing going on that, she is winning and all of this, I was like, oh shit, I gotta go see this for myself, because I haven't seen anything move that fast ever in Wright County. So I went there, and my suspicions were correct in that what she was saying couldn't be further from the truth. And then I procured all of the documents and all of the register of actions and got every single piece of everything that's been filed, and that was filed over 2 years ago. And her side has delayed and delayed and delayed, had excuse after excuse after excuse. And they've drawn this out over 2 years. It is now being drawn out to going into year 2025. They are hoping now, the judge has ruled, that she wants basically everything to be tied up by the end of the year. And if it has to go into 2025, she wants all options of checking into mediation, etc., done, so that then if it goes into 2025, it's not having these other motions that have been continued and continued and continued. The motions are from her side not doing anything. She has a whole narrative out there that Shin and the Derricks and 7M are dragging their feet, that they don't have money for a lawsuit, that they are dragging this out, that they are taking her to court, and nothing could be further from the truth, which is, in my opinion, pretty much her brand. The way that Katie Joy got involved in this is another question mark for those who don't know all of the lore that is Katie Joy and her channel, Without a Crystal Ball. And basically, from what I can figure out from people who know her, have known her for most of her life, and her own account and things, it started when she was in high school, and it sounds like her brother was well liked and successful and good looking, and I believe that it's just her and her brother, and it sounds like she came from a very nice family. I have not ever heard anything different. She comes out and says that she was abused, and that's her story to tell. If it's on the internet, you can Google her, and her story is that she was abused. She feels that she is ostracized from her family. She reports that she is. She feels that she's separated from her family, separated from anything, basically, of her having interaction at all. And there are some other interesting backstories for that I won't go into right now. But she started her channel and basically learned from when she was in high school. She had accusations against a gentleman, we'll say that did not come to a point in which an arrest was made. It was her word against his. The evidence wasn't there to prosecute, and in my opinion, she's bitter about that. That is also out there. If you Google, you can find that out. It seems like there was something there from that accusation in which there was not a prosecution, which is common when women or men come forth with a complaint based in misconduct of another person. It's difficult to prosecute. It always has been. But hers had a lot of problems in how she reported, when she reported. etc. From all reports, it seems that she became very bitter from that point on. And she was very bitter and jealous and started behaving in that way. Possibly she didn't have closure in that and has went onward with that bitter unhappiness and started to do content on people who are on TV. She has no history in being influential in the community, in her career, or lack of it, for all intents and purposes. There's nothing there where she's this influential person. There's nothing there that warrants the destruction that she has caused to other people and their individual lives. She should not have the influence she is having. She lives in a very rural, beautiful prairie land, but it's out there. It's a stretch to get to a grocery store or anything like that. It's not like she's a person like the people that she covers on her channel. In fact, quite the opposite. So she started, I believe, with people on TLC. And sometimes when there's a TV show such on TLC and whatnot, people feel that these are everyday people, that they can relate to them. And often the people on those shows start their own social media channels because they interact with the fans. That bolsters their status and gets them on further shows and a new season, etc., etc. So in today's world, relating to people on TV is common online. Whether or not you're interacting directly with that person or not, it is yet to be determined, because not everybody interacts right directly with, but they might have a page or something, and you might think that your comment will be viewed by them, or in Instagram, Facebook, etc., etc. This happened a lot with Bravo. There was a lot of little channels that came out for the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and the Vanderpump Rules, all of those little subgroups of social media things. Well, Katie Joy started posting, and she doesn't have fear of, I don't know how to say this. I don't write things because I'm scared that, number one, somebody come and, well, whack me, or I'd get sued for defamation, or there is something called criminal defamation. I'd be afraid of being charged criminally, civilly, or, like I say, of just straight up getting whacked. You just don't say some of the things she says, and she says them. And the things that you would not ever dream of somebody saying about somebody, she goes even lower. She goes for the jugular, takes out the jugular, eats it, steps on it, sets it on fire, and then puts it back and acts like she did nothing. And if the person says something about their jugular feeling a little weird, she's going to call the cops on them and say that they accused her of something, because she lives out in the middle of nowhere. But yet she calls the cops all the time. She gets in these fights online, and she'll call the cops. It was over 20 times. I don't think it was 30, but the number 28 comes to mind, I believe, where it was just revealed how many times she's called the Wright County Sheriff out to her house for her fights with neighbors and her fights with people online. So she started talking about Tati Westbrook. And there's no relation with her and Tati. There would be no, they're not friends. I don't see Katie Joy as an influencer in beauty. You would just have to kind of see her to understand why I would say that. But she did start to learn how to do makeup and try to do things to maybe, maybe feminize her face a little bit more. And she's done self-reported. She's done fillers. I don't know what type of fillers. To me, it looks like fillers. It looks to me like Juvederm, possibly Botox. I can't tell. In her most recent video, she is smiling, and I can't tell if the Botox has made something stuck, and that's why she's smiling, because I don't recall her smiling previously. And certainly the things that are being discussed are not appropriate to be smiling about. Definitely there's a place for comedic relief, but when you're causing emotional pain and you're talking about some of the subjects here, it's not appropriate. So I don't know if the Botox has done something. I don't know. But her smile is very unnatural. Her body language is not consistent with her being happy. There are a lot of people who've done content on that. Now, the Tati Westbrook lawsuit got a lot of attention. But for whatever reason, Tati's attorneys filed out of Washington State, and Katie Joy is, of course, in Minnesota here. And so the lawsuit was thrown out, basically, it didn't go anywhere because of jurisdiction. I think that there is something more about that, in that she made an agreement, her and Tati made an agreement that then Katie Joy would talk about where she got some of the information that she got in exchange for Tati to go into a further litigation. There was a piece there in that helped it kind of go by the wayside. So the next big, she's had disputes that have resulted in her filing restraining orders, and she really hurt one man who was essentially a co-worker of hers online. She was writing on an online blog with others in a group, and she accused one of the other people who was online with her of something, and she filed a really, really intense no contact order against him, and really, really went to try to ruin this man. And ultimately, she wrote an apology, and it was dropped. But I looked at it, and I even looked at it wrong, because when I saw the apology letter, I would have thought it was the person she was accusing. I wouldn't have imagined that then she wrote an apology. And that was a big mess. And that's still something that is talked about online. And I feel very bad for the person in which she accused, because she's very hurtful, and she just goes on and goes to the next person that she goes and hurts. And these are deep wounds. These are wounds that cost people their reputation and their financial security. They're humiliating things that she says, and they are very, very egregious things that she says. So then, Michael Todd Chrisley, who was involved in all of that stuff, she started saying all of these things about the Chrisleys and the Chrisley family. And Michael Todd Chrisley filed a defamation suit, and it was looking like it was going to really be the thing that kind of took her down a notch. Then, as we know, Michael Todd Chrisley was kind of in deeper than he knew with other things, and he ended up going to prison. And there was some type of an agreement, allegedly, between Katie Joy and Michael Todd Chrisley that essentially they wouldn't talk about each other. There was something there. I've not seen it, so I don't know how it went. But I mean, this thing was a very intense lawsuit with a lot of momentum from Chrisley. So that was done. Now, while those things did not, those either Tati or Michael Todd Chrisley, well, those things did not come to the full action, they still cost her a bunch of money in her attorney's fees. And Tati and Michael Todd Chrisley, they're both out a lot of attorney's fees trying to get her to not say the horrible things she does. So then she went on, and somewhere in here, she went from being reportedly religious in a community church to becoming very angry because something happened at this community church, and her then claiming atheism. And around that time, it looks like that is when she allegedly started saying that she had been raised in a cult. And that cult, you may have heard of it before. I'm not sure. I'm going to drop the name of the cult that she claims that she was raised in. It is called that of the Catholic Church. She claims that because she was raised in the Catholic Church, that's a cult. She calls the Catholic Church a cult. Basically, anybody that gives her pushback, she labels as being part of a cult or espousing from a cult, being like a cult or a cult itself. From that, then she started really going for the fundamentalist type Mormons, saying that that's a cult, and going after the Duggars and the sister wives with reckless abandon. I think she wanted to wear Cody's skin at one point. Maybe still does. I think she wants to have a little car like that and go around house to house and be the spouse. It's that bad. The things that she said and says about them. On her defense, that she is anti-cult because she was raised in a cult. The Catholic Church. And that's where she blames her parents and being abusive in such action as having her in such a cult as the Catholic persuasion. So, then somehow, as she said that she was all in against these religious cults and whatnot, somehow, I don't understand exactly how this happened, but what is going on right now, as you've all seen in the headlines, something happened where Miranda's parents started speaking out, saying that they believed that their daughter was taken by a cult and taken away from them, that they can't contact her, that they don't know if she's even safe. And somehow, Katie Joy jumped on that and contacted Miranda's parents, allegedly. And that's where she got gasoline to the fire that she was already starting in her obsessive defamation, gossip, and an insane jealousy of other people. I don't know if she's jealous because they're on reality shows. Maybe she wants her own reality show. Like I say, it could be called The Real of Hanover. The Real Big Bitch of Hanover. One of the two. Well, I better fair use this. This is all my content. I'm just talking, but the bots always wonder if I have a fair use in there. So in case the bots are listening, I am doing this under fair use. I am citing the Fair Use Act and disclaimer in Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, where allowance is made for fair use in the four-factor balancing act test, where a small portion of the original material is used, new work is critique, satire, or education, and the commercial value of the original is not diminished, and the new work is predominantly original product of the user, and I sourced that out from emerging EdTech and Termly. So fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. So, with that being said, she globbed on to Miranda's parents, and their story on the surface is heartbreaking, okay? The problem is Miranda is an adult making adult choices. They want to act like this is their adolescent daughter that was lured. And nothing could be further from the truth. Miranda, I believe, was 24 when she left. Oh, whoops. I think she was 24. And does that make her 26 now? Dang it. Gotta get back to where I was. I think that makes her 26. So she was 24 or 26. I think maybe 24 when this was filed and she's 26 now. Or something of the effect, maybe she's 24 now. Either way, she is not a child. This is an adult doing adult things and making adult choices. And Katie Joy didn't need encouragement to go the way that she goes for people. But she got encouragement and basically decided to take this on and be the frickin' Joan of Arc of our time, to fight against cults and all that they stand for, and to single-handedly go and unhand Robert Shin of Miranda and get her back to her parents, and then go out to Sunday brunch with all of them. Something like that. But the truth is, Miranda separated from her family because she chose to. Her and her sister had moved out to LA. The documentary tells those things, but the documentary is titled Dancing for the Devil. It is one-sided, and it is lacking the fact that there is a $4 million defamation suit that we are looking at, that 7M has actual and projected damages in the amount of $4 million and counting that they can show they've lost as a result of Katie Joy's nonstop, obsessive defamation, obsession, extreme jealousy. There are so many other things about Katie Joy that I'm not going to go into right now that certainly you can Google and find out. There are many things in her life that she must not be very proud of. There are no indication that she's happy at all in her life. That she spends so much more time talking about everybody else that she's not paying attention to the people in her house, like her son and her husband. Most people don't even know that she has a child and a husband because she's online so much talking about other people and talking in a way that is cruel and unusual, and it goes beyond gossip. It's salacious, it's inflammatory, it's humiliating, it's downright devastating. When she was talking about the sister wives, it's no secret that one of them had a child who, well, there I go saying child, but had a son who recently unalived himself. Katie Joy has made endless content blaming the parents for that, blaming the Mormon church for that, saying that he was raised in a cult. What do you expect him to do? What did you expect doing that? What did you expect raising him in a cult like that? As if that family isn't suffering enough. As if the people listening to her haven't had similar tragedies in their life and they don't wrestle with that guilt every day, and having somebody put those evil thoughts in their head that they can't shake back out. That's what she does. Why does she do this? Nobody knows. Nobody knows why she does it. Is it for money? Is it for kicks? Is it for views? I don't know. I look at it and I just don't understand it. I don't understand how you can be so cruel to somebody else. I can't listen to her because it hurts me. I can't imagine being the person that she's talked about. She's said terrible things about me. She's ganged up on me. She has several people ganging up on me right now. She never does her own dirty work. She runs to the mummy of YouTube and runs to mommy and tells on me, and I have a lot of people who are trying to find out things about me and everything, and she's trying to take me to court. She's trying to silence me because I'm the one who's telling the truth about what's really going on in the courtroom. She doesn't want that. She wants this narrative that she's some kind of a victim when she is the aggressor. She says that she's a proponent of free speech, but she works hard to silence anybody else. I had to stop doing coverage of her a few months ago because the harassment and bullying was so intense. The day after I restarted, my videos were once again mass reported, and they were falsely reported for inciting and encouraging violence. YouTube agreed that one of them was because I had read and narrated an article that was and is on Meta, Google, every news channel that there is and has been for over 20 years. The article I narrated was in the New York Times, etc., etc. I didn't say anything about what that person ended up doing or anything like that. I was talking about how they were... Oh, I am recording. Okay. So, sorry. Kiddo needed me for a second. I forgot where I was. I'm sorry. You guys are out there probably yelling. So anyway, when 7M filed, I believe that 7M had gleaned some insight from the other people who had came along and tried to take action against her. And so they wisely asked for a restraining order on their information, because what Katie Joy has done historically is when she's in a lawsuit with somebody, she takes their answers that they say in the deposition interrogatories, etc., etc., as is part of the process, whatever is in those whatever is in documents like that, that's what she then uses as fact and then makes content out of it. Okay? I don't call her Rage Bait Kate for nothing. The more that she inflames and causes rage, the bigger she gets. The more money she makes and the bigger platform she gains. That is because people go and listen about it, and then they go and tell all these other people, and then they go and they listen to what she's saying, and it gives her the views and the content, and she's made millions at this point. She's made far more than $1 million, and so I can say millions. She has made millions doing social media, saying things beyond what the Inquirer used to say about people. It doesn't matter if it's true or not to her. It's what she says. And then she lines it up in that she was a victim of SA, and she was a victim of this, and it was not prosecuted, and she was a victim of a cult, and she grew up in a cult. So while she's saying all of these things about everybody else, she uses that as her safeguard to say, well, I was a victim of it, so I can speak on it. Whereas there's no proof that that's accurate. And even if it was, maybe counseling, closure, and going and having a happy marriage and being actively involved and engaged in the daily activities of your child, especially now that it's summer. Okay, so I was saying how bad she's came from me. So, and the article. So I lost monetization from my channel, which I had finally gotten back up to the point where I was making $117 a month on my channel. And now I even got that taken away. So it's very frustrating to continue to see creators as responsible as Katie Joy continue to make all of the money that they do, breaking all of the rules of YouTube and their terms of service. But because they make so much money for them, they let it go. And then those bigger creators continue to bully small channels like mine. So we're not there to tell the truth about what they're doing. And YouTube further backs those bullies in taking away our channels. There are many channels, there are many people in which Katie Joy and her associates have taken down. They are involved in court cases now, trying to take other people's channels. If you speak out against Katie Joy, there's a price. And because I care about the truth and the facts, and I believe that they are important on some level to some people, I continue on. I have a small channel because I don't allow lies and BS on my channel. I've seen people go into others' channels and saying very, very disgusting things about 7M, about Robert Shin, about Miranda in the comments. And that is hosting defamation. And I don't do that. So I keep my channel small. Everybody has the opportunity to comment, and you do it once, and it's something like that could get me in trouble. I won't be a host to defamation. I won't be a host to lies like that. The things that I have seen her host are of more things saying that Robert Shin is a monster. All of the things that you saw in the documentary, her accusing him of, and more. And she's saying that he has her held in court now. She's been in court against him for 2.5 years. Imagine what her life is like, having to deal with him in court all the time. They filed one complaint. Your side has delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and made excuses and delayed some more and got another extension and delayed. And so it's the same complaint from 2 years ago. The only thing doing anything on it is Katie Joy continues to write and write and write and write. And then wait a minute, because everybody's going, wait a minute. So she talked to Miranda's parents. How does that have to do with Shin? Well, gee, who knows why she's obsessed about Shin? All it does is you just go, and so it looks like Miranda's parents said this cult is led by, allegedly, Robert Shin. And he's the big man, big, mean, scary cult man who did this to my daughter and has my daughter, and we can't see her. We don't even know that she's okay. We don't know that, she's not being harmed. All this stuff that is very, very, it pulls at your heartstrings. So then she got a big, huge boner for Robert Shin. Huge boner. Big. And her erection for Robert Shin is one of the biggest that the world's ever seen. She writes these things about Robert Shin that are just freaking crazy. She herself said that she needed to get a new roof because of storm damage in the last year she didn't notice or whatever, and because some YouTubers pointed out that she had a bunch of mold above her while she's sitting there and wondering why her ceiling is about to fall in from all the frickin' mold. And so then she listened to what the people were saying about the mold and finds out that yes, there was storm damage that she had not noticed, and apparently she didn't notice that the frickin' roof's about to frickin' cave in, and gets that. And I don't even know all the mold remediation and everything. I don't even know how that's all going to be covered by insurance because it was not reported in a timely manner. But anyway, she goes on about this. So because a lot of people do not like this woman because of the horrible things that she said about people and how mean and vile she is, all of these people don't like her at all. So they write things. Guess what she does? She makes content out of it and blames it on Robert Shin. She posted, and I am not even kidding, she posted that Robert Shin is making fun of her roof shingles. I don't think that, and hopefully from those of you who saw it on the documentary can see that it doesn't seem like Robert Shin would be concerned about the shingles on the roof of the Katie Joy, despite her boner for him. So, guess what she's trying to do now? I can't even make this up. Well, one of the things she does. Okay. She refers to him now as Roberto. So she is insulting his Korean heritage, his culture, his ethnicity. She thinks she's real funny. So she put up this thing and she put up about the roof or whatever. She's like, haha, Roberto, my roof is going to be covered for insurance. So haha, you don't even have enough money to continue this lawsuit. And you keep me in court. All this stuff. I'm like, why would Robert Shin care about this? No, it's pretty much probably a million people that freaking can't stand you that are making fun of you because generally you don't wait till you start seeing mold in your ceiling, but it is what it is. Out here when we have our big storms, if there's storm damage in an area, and she said that the year prior there was damage, then other people, the contractors will come out and they'll just put their business card on your door and say, hey, your neighbors had some damage. If you'd like us to go up on the roof or check your siding, call us and let us know. That's the way it usually goes. So she didn't do it. I mean, by the time that you got mold there, it's a problem. So I watched the 7M documentary to say in my mind that, you know what? 7M's doing a documentary. I'm sure they're going to give the whole story. But you know what? They didn't. And so those of you who watched the 7M documentary and you're going, huh? Cult? I don't really, what? Okay, there you go. Shows that your brain's working. Shows that you've got some good grooves in that gray matter. Because 7M is not a cult in my opinion. In my opinion, Robert Shin is a part of a church that he is very devoted and holds himself accountable to. And he chooses that religion. And when people came into his circle, he had them over, told them what he's doing, what he believes. They joined him. I do not see any proof out of that documentary otherwise that there has been any consequence whatsoever from anybody leaving the religion or the relationship in which Robert Shin is accused of having a cult of. Katie Joy has accused Robert Shin of waterboarding people. She's accused Robert Shin of human trafficking. She's accused him multiple times of rape. He's never been arrested for any of that. He's certainly never been convicted of any of it. She's calling on her brain-dead followers to call LA County and have him arrested. What for? What for? The lawsuit that he's in, as they showed the women on the documentary, that's civil, right? Not going to get arrested for that. On the documentary, they showed the other girl who was a dancer who said that he brushed up against her or something like that. And she made the report and talked to multiple officers at the LAPD. Are they going to pressure an arrest for that? For brushing up against you? Is that what she said? Because I tried to watch that documentary and figure out what, and I went back and forth, and she said he did chiropractor. So I don't know. He's a doctor. I don't know what kind of a doctor. I don't know if he still has his doctor's license. I don't know the man. But I have known other Korean men, and I've had Korean friends. And from the behavior that I saw in that documentary, Robert Shin seems like a Korean man. And my Korean friends have all been very, very religious, praying several times a day, hard workers, and they keep to themselves and they don't hurt others. That's what I know of my Korean friends. What Katie Joy does is she goes and she gets old court records. So think about if you've ever been in a dispute with anybody. Boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, ex-husband, and you're going through a divorce or whatever, or you get in a big enough fight, you put a no contact order or anything. Think about the things that are written there that you write about somebody else, and think about what's written about you. Now imagine that years down the road, some asshole in the middle of nowhere is going to get online and take what was written in those court things, those accusations about you, and put them all over the internet and have you socially convicted of those accusations, to the point that those accusations are then latched with you forever, to shame you, to stop you from making money, to stop you from being successful. That's what she's done. She brags about what she's done. She brags about calling the advertisers for the dancers and putting pressure on them. She's asked for her followers to call the advertisers and put pressure on them to drop those contracts. She does this. She brags about this. She is bragging, trying to say that she crafted and created this entire freaking documentary. She has herself up there with the stuck Botox smile, straight up looking into whatever it is she's looking into, the abyss, saying that her documentary is number one. Her documentary. Like she's over in Hanover with this big freaking news crew, trolling around the area of where to get her stories. Because she's not a news organization. She's a very angry, bitter bitch. Sitting there making terrible accusations about people to the effect that they lose the right to make an income, to be successful. If you haven't watched the documentary, I don't want to spoil anything. I want to give a quick overview. So, if you don't want a spoiler, grab yourself some tea or something like that. So, the way that it went is that Netflix, Katie Joy says she called them up and pitched this until they made a documentary. But if you look at the whole documentary, you do see her face splash across the screen. You see some of her screenshots. I know that they were crafted by her, so I would know that. But they showed several other YouTubers, and they showed several other media bites. Often they are taken from her, but there's probably some that have came up on their own. And at the very, very last episode at the end, they listed her name as an archival consultant. That means that she goes and digs through old stuff and gets accusations and turns them into facts and convictions, which we know are not true. Okay, so anywho. The part one was called Die to Yourself. It was called Die to Yourself as it goes into basically saying that this cult wants you to die to yourself. It wants you to be reborn and let go of the life that you had before. Now, this documentary says that wants you to get rid of anybody that you knew before, were associated with before, and start anew in this. I don't know if that is true. I don't know how that is different than a lot of things. Is there a lot of things in our world that can be considered a cult if what you leave your old life behind and you start something new and you don't associate in the way that you do before? Is that a cult? I don't know. But the way that they did it made it, that's one part that I will have to give them that says, not great. But Miranda and Melanie were sisters. They're the two daughters of mom and dad who are both teachers. I believe they said the mom was a counselor as well. So Miranda and Melanie Wilking, it doesn't say how far apart they are in age, but Miranda is the older sister. So when Miranda started liking dance and whatnot as a kid, then Melanie did, and the two of them became great performers together. You all saw the stuff. Looks really good. Well, anyway, they did cute little dances. They started putting themselves on social media, and they did TikTok and started getting brand collaborations, and they marketed themselves as the Wilking sisters. So they danced very much in sync. Really, really cool. Now that's around April 19, according to the documentary. So they start and they're doing brand collaborations. They're on social media together. And then who slipped into somebody's DMs other than James B. Derrick? That handsome man. Oh, he slips into the DMs of, it said both of them at first, but I think that he was slipping into Miranda's DMs. But he became friends with both of the sisters, okay? This is the one that she supposedly ran off and joined a cult with. Okay? So, James starts doing dances with the sisters. James went and stayed 7 weeks? I wrote 7 weeks in my notes, but I can't read my own handwriting, obviously, because I can't imagine that he would have stayed 7 weeks with her family. But I don't know. Maybe it says 1 week, 2 weeks. I don't know. He stayed some weeks with the family. So the family got to know him. They liked him at first. They show that they, them in the car and whatnot. So if you go into where was James B. Derrick in his life, he was in a dance group, and the style of dance was called krump. And they were pushing and worshiping God through dance. So he was in this group with other guys. He was with Concrete, and they did World of Dance together. And the style of krump, K-R-U-M-P, stands for the kingdom radically uplifted by mighty praise, because they're pushing God through their dance, as they figure that the dancing is a spiritual expression to God through dance. So James is in that, and he's in that with his friends and the ones that he's associating with. And so he meets up with both the girls. They're doing this. He meets the family and everything. Well, then him and Miranda kind of start having a little more private time, and Melanie kind of gets tossed out as the third wheel. Okay? She's the little sister. Easy to have happen. Prior to that, when Miranda had moved out to LA, Melanie followed her out there when she graduated. So then we get into look at my notes here to see, because I don't have anything else that says on me. Okay, so James became friends with this guy named Isaiah. Well, Isaiah's last name is Shin, and so Isaiah was starting to do their videos. And I mean, think about it. You know how this is right now. You see on TikTok and you see these little dance collabs and stuff. It's a bunch of teenagers and they get together, and one of them's good at this, one of them's good at that, and they come together and they make videos. That's what was happening. So James was already in a group with his friends that was religiously centered, pushing God through dance, spiritual. Miranda and Melanie were out there in LA pursuing their dance career. Not religiously affiliated, but James slid into her DMs. So then, James's history. Well, he's doing this dance stuff and everything. He's not making any money. He's like any struggling artist. He's like any teenager who leaves home, goes to LA, and wants to get discovered. That's why even on Vanderpump Rules, when it started originally, it was struggling actors, struggling models working at a restaurant in West Hollywood, hoping to be discovered. And, well, Lala was discovered by an older man. But anyway, I think Lala's divorced now. I think, is she pregnant again? Anyway, all of them were just struggling artists. So think of that. Think of Vanderpump Rules. Think of, Jax and Stassi and all of them. And, they had little apartments. They were roommates with each other. They were crashing on each other's couches. This is that. That's all this was. Where James is with his friends and they have the krump dance and they're getting together and they're doing this. They're doing these performances. And you've got Melanie and Miranda, who are sisters, doing the same thing, doing their little dance thing, putting their stuff up to get together online. James was homeless. He lived in his car. He had a suitcase of his belongings. He says for the year prior. So while he's doing these performances and everything, he's not making enough to support him in California. He says he doesn't have any money. He's homeless. He's living in a car. Everything he owns is in a suitcase. That's kind of the story for a lot of people starting out in LA. It really is, especially in today's world where you can't afford anything. That's why then, you can be a performer, you can get, be doing auditions, doing modeling and stuff, but you get a job in the restaurant industry or retail or whatever to pay the bills while you're trying to get discovered. That's what's happening. That's what happened here. This is how this all began. It wasn't nefarious. It wasn't some weird, what were those those cults of the 70s you think of, the Hare Krishnas? Is that what it's called? Or, just, you just think of the weird van taking you out to the commune and not having any power. You think of Waco, Texas. That's what you think of when you think of a freaking cult. You don't think of a cult being when there's struggling teenagers who get somebody who can market them. Because that's what happened. They're hanging out, and they're hanging out at Isaiah's house. Isaiah's dad is Robert Shin. So Shin starts doing these family dinners for everybody who's hanging out there and starts talking about his religious beliefs. They joined him in that. He didn't say, oh, do this or you can't be here. I've told you guys in my videos before, when the pandemic hit, my kids knew of other friends who were living in their car, no different than James. When the vid hit, my kids couldn't handle it, knowing that their friends who, would use like the 24-hour fitness or whatever to, go and shower at and get a couple hours of sleep, or they'd go to, Walmart or whatever to keep warm when it was too cold at night or anything like that. My kids couldn't handle that. They knew that there were their friends doing that. So my home became the home for the Lost Boys, as my daughter put it. My daughter did not appreciate it. Well, she did not appreciate me making my home into the home for the Lost Boys. But am I a cult leader then? Because I gave shelter and safety to kids who were already put in a really bad position, who didn't have a home to call their own for whatever reasons. And I am not I don't like sitting down and eating, and I don't like listening and chewing and everything else. So it's like I would just make a bunch of food, leave it out, and in the morning there'd be nothing left but dirty plates. I understand that situation. I have been in that situation where you have a bunch of teenagers over who don't have a place to call their own. That's what happened. Think of it. Maybe you've been in that position too. This started out innocently enough. It didn't become dirty, dangerous, and disgusting until Katie Joy called it that. And then somebody picks it up to make money on what she said, to further take money away from them and shame them. Is that right? Is that really what we want to be doing to people who start out like this? I don't think so. Oh, boo-boo, you're night-night, honey. You're night-night. So, James sleeping in his car, meets up with Isaiah. Isaiah's doing the videography. I'm going to turn the page now. For those of you who have seen my stationery before, I have cat stationery. So then, Robert Shin, the other group, so on the documentary, there was Aubrey, there's B-Dash, there's Isaiah, there's Kaylee, I can't remember who else, but ultimately, the Wilkings were very upset because the grandfather had passed away. And they wanted Miranda to come to the funeral back. I can't remember where they're from. I don't remember if it's Michigan, something like that. They wanted her to come back. And she said she had the vid and couldn't go, didn't want to discuss it. That's her way of saying, no, I'm not coming. But that was not anything her parents would accept. They would not accept a no. And if she would have said anything less than her making the white lie of her having the vid, they would have continued and continued. So I understand. She gave them just an excuse instead of saying, I don't want to come because I don't want to deal with you. Not in the mood. Don't want to freaking deal with this. From that event, that was also pivotal, because then that became this huge thing that Katie Joy said that, she wasn't allowed to come home, that she's not allowed to leave allegedly, etc., etc. So this funeral became a very big thing, and in Miranda's statement where she addresses this, she goes into more detail in saying that she had explained that she wasn't coming, and that she had had a previous visit with the grandfather and was basically content with how that had went. I understand that. I understand not being able to afford mentally or financially coming back for a funeral when you know that you're at peace with that person and you were at peace with that person in life. I understand that. I really do. So I don't see why that became something so big. From that, her parents still would not take that no for an answer, so they called the police, the LA County, and said these things that, they don't even know if their daughter is safe, that she's being held, she's in a cult, blah, 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 blah. And so the LAPD did a wellness check and reported back that, nope, she's fine. She's decided she's not coming for the funeral, but she's fine. She's in good spirits. There's not a problem. Okay? So then, this brings us to like 2021. And there is another character who is brought into the mix. And I think his name is Nick. And his family talked more about their feelings that their son was also in a cult. Again, all this is that it went from friend group to Isaiah's place being the place they hang out with, and Robert Shin looking at him and saying, hey, why don't we get together and I'll do your managing and we'll get these videos put out where people can see them, and then we'll get you engagements to dance. With Crump, James had been on the Ellen Show when he was with his friends before and World of Dance. So the way the story goes is that Shin said, okay, and we'll call this company 7M, and I'll let you guys live here. Or, as he was a real estate agent, also reportedly, he had another property that he was willing to let them live in to provide them home, shelter, and whatever, and get them jobs. That's what this is. He offered to manage them, and he's also devoutly religious. So when this other family felt the same, they paired up with Miranda's family. And they reached out to the police. They reached out to experts. And essentially the answer came back that these are adults and they cannot come in and take somebody away. Even if it is a cult by definition, that is not illegal. It is not illegal to be in, join one, start one, a cult. We get into something very, very interesting in here as the Constitution hater that Katie Joy is. There's nothing that she hates more than freedom of speech than she hates freedom of religion. She thinks it's her right to persecute others for their religion and make them feel guilty for, ashamed of, etc., etc., as she has now decided that she is atheist and claimed that her dog even ate the Bible. But I saw it and I think she chewed on it, because I have never seen a dog go and frickin' chew up a Bible. Even a dog knows you don't do that. Anyway. The police and the experts said that in a situation like this, from past interactions, if it is actually a cult, when the police show up, it makes it worse for the victims. That causes more stress and more strife than allowing and hoping and praying that your loved one will reach out to you at some point when and if they decide that they don't want to be in that situation anymore. And if you have called the police, you're making it worse, and you're also taking the risk of shutting the communication down. You want to keep that communication open so that they know that you are a safe person to call if they leave. if they one day take a walk down the road, call you and say, hey, I'm at, the Kmart, and I want you to pick me up. Not that the Kmart's in existence anymore, but you know what I'm saying? So it's definitely not anything that you want to do. And then we get into, we've got Aubrey and we've got Kylie. And I don't know. It goes into talking about the other lawsuits that Robert Shin's been involved in a divorce. Ugly things are said in a divorce. You don't take those ugly things and then show them all over the world. And that's, like I said, that's what Katie Joy is doing. So Robert Shin calls his church Shekinah. Shekinah, I believe. Is it Shekinah or Shekinah? I think they said Shekinah on the documentary. Now they did state, because I had wondered this too, his Shekinah. Just a second, my kiddo needs me. Just a second. Yellow. Yellow. Okay, just recording over here. All right. Love you. Bye. Sorry about that. So, like I said, I don't know how Katie Joy has time to be on the internet 24/7, because here it is, midnight, and my kids, like they've contacted me twice. I'm in my recording studio. Don't they understand? Maybe I should move my recording studio to the closet and shut the doors. They can't find me. Anyway. It says that although it is called the Shekinah Church, it is not associated with other churches of the same name. Because I've wondered that, because I've seen other Shekinah, whatever churches. And I don't know if it is entirely Robert Shin's or if he is the pastor there. I don't know. It didn't go into that. It does seem like it is Bible based. He did quote from the Bible. Now, Katie Joy says that that Robert Shin has waterboarded people. I have joked and said, do you mean baptize? And I think that my joke was actually correct, because the video then showed this lovely scene of the members of Shekinah Church being baptized at Laguna Beach. So here's, they're out there, and just like the Mormon church and other churches do, where you get into many churches don't believe in baptizing until you can consent, or when you have given yourself to Jesus. So those ones that have that for when you're older, they have like a hot tub basically in front, not a jacuzzi, but the size of like a hot tub, and you get in it, you fully dip, because then you want the water to fully come over your head, to fully dip and come out renewed, that you washed away the old and you come out new. That's what was going on at Laguna Beach. So you have several people there, I assume from the Shekinah Church, and one by one, they were, leaning back, being pulled back up. Yay, they're baptized. They're new in the eyes of Christ. I think that's what she was calling waterboarding, because I didn't see anything else about it, and I don't see him as the type that looks like he wants to go waterboarding people. I see him as a professional Korean man. I did not look at this man and see these things. But who knows? Who knows? So then it went into, and it basically said that Robert Shin teaches you that your thoughts are not your own, that your thoughts are either put into your psyche by God or from the devil. Okay? That's not something that I personally believe. So I would say that there are some people who may think that. There are some people who have other ways of thinking of how thoughts come into your head. But that's one line of thinking. I don't think that that is espousing evil of any kind, but that was the next point in which they brought up saying that this is what he thinks. There were voice clips in there that were not showing Robert Shin or his mouth or moving in that way or whatever. There were just these voice clips that would come on. And I find that problematic because how can you prove that's Robert Shin? Did you have permission to use Robert Shin if he was recorded? Who recorded him? How did you get this information? Somebody could have crafted this. Could be AI. All of the things that go into me not understanding how they were able to use these voice clips and say that or imply that they were Robert Shin. Now, they did have footage of Robert Shin in the church setting. I assume that was, some of it was from concealed cameras, and obviously some of it wasn't, but there was definitely that. But there was nothing in there that Shin contributed or Miranda contributed because they have a brain. They're involved in litigation. When you are, from the day you're served or have noticed that you're going to be sued, you shut your mouth and you wait until the day in which the judge decides how these charges are going to go, and then you can talk about what happened then. You do not discuss current litigation. They had to put that extra step of putting that restraining order on what they say so that she can't see it. That restraining order is so strict that it goes to that she cannot even see it. That there are parts of what is in there that are for the judge and the attorney's eyeballs only. It literally says for attorney's eyes only. That there are different classifications in which the information is gathered from 7M that is classified in those ways. And it can be for attorney's eyes only, for general, because there has to be some. This is where it gets problematic because you have to be able to prepare your client for their defense, so they need to know what they're accused of. But they must have thought this all out, because then there's probably some that her attorney can see with, but she's not allowed to. Well, I'm not even going to say it because anything I say can and will be used against me from Katie Joy. So, anyway, their side didn't say anything. Who would? Who would do this? Well, Katie Joy, every day, all day, calling for Robert Shin's arrest. Even if he gets arrested, it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to stop the $4 million that you cost him. That's not going to stop a defamation suit, even if he got arrested and was put under the jail. I think she thinks this is like the Chrisley case, where when he got arrested, he let go of this because he had bigger fish to fry. I don't think that's the case here. If Robert Shin were to get arrested, an arrest is one thing. Then you have to go through the whole thing, trial by jury, and a conviction. So if he was convicted of one thing, whatever he's accused of and would get arrested from, one arrest and conviction does not negate all that Katie Joy has said about this man. She had the LA Clippers stop their contract with them. These dancers have worked all of their life, given up how much to be so disciplined to their passion of dancing. And then they were finally starting to get noticed, finally starting to get jobs. Katie Joy, miserable wench from Hanover, sits there, makes up a bunch of stuff, tells her minions to call. And so people call up and say, you're letting people who are in a cult dance. Oh, I'm not going to watch. I'm not going to be a part of this because, oh my God, I keep cult members. Her subscribers, I have seen screenshots that say I went and unfollowed all of the dancers because I'm afraid they're in a cult and I don't want the cult to come after me. What? Oh, I stopped subscribing because they might be in a cult and I don't want that. What? You think it helps if somebody were in a position where they weren't happy to go and walk away from them? Wouldn't that further ostracize them? Didn't the documentary say in there that calling the police makes it worse? So what is Katie Joy asking for people to call the police for? Why is she trying to get Robert Shinn arrested? And what for? What for? What are the... There's no charges. There's not a crime that's documented. All I could see on the documentary was she said that he brushed against her or made her feel uncomfortable doing a chiropractic adjustment to her back. I don't think that rises to the level of a criminal act that is going to be strong enough to withhold the prosecutor proving their case in a trial by jury. My opinion. My opinion. So, it seems like the biggest point in here was that when Melanie herself said that, you know, Miranda was never coming home, she couldn't get a hold of her sister, they were sharing a car, and somehow, I think, what was it, Robert Shinn's daughter maybe, called Melanie, so Miranda's sister, called Melanie, because Melanie had came over to a couple of dinners, and, like I said, I think it was Robert Shinn's daughter, said, hey, can you come over, Robert is doing a sermon that he really wants you to be able to hear today. And Melanie said, I'm giving my friend a ride to the airport. I can't. And she reportedly said, I need you to have somebody else drive your friend to the airport so you can be there for this. Melanie said, no, I'm not doing that. That was the end. That was it. Nobody came for Melanie. Nobody stalked Melanie. No one said anything about Melanie. Melanie said, no, that's a little inconvenient for me. I'm not doing it. And what? I think ultimately Melanie moved back home with her parents, as I believe. But now, like, I don't know. It's just, I think that speaks volumes. I think that if you look at this documentary and you know the truth and the backstory, I think you'll see these things and understand that this documentary really does show in favor of Robert Shinn and how everything came together. That although on the surface, in the way that it's marketed as a cult, dancing for the devil, it didn't show me that what they were saying adds up to that. Certainly other people can watch it and have whatever opinion they want, but that's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? Have you watched it? What do you think? I kind of, from the way that the documentary was marketed, I thought that there would be more to substantiate what they were saying. as you know from my narration, $4 million in contracts lost. Miranda and James, from what I understand, have not been able to get contracts to work. That no one is hiring 7M like they were. That they were this rising star. And then, boom, they became a shooting star. Back to ground zero. Because Katie Joy went and pulled on the star. Why? And here's my thing. Why would, as she brags, it's the LA Clippers that she may or may not have influenced and... Okay, if Katie Joy had never said anything about Robert Shin or put any of these things out there, they would still have their contract for the LA Clippers. That's pretty much, you can say, the deduction of reasoning leads to that. And other brand sponsors. Who picks up the phone call? At the LA Clippers or Spanx, they also lost the contract with Spanx as a brand. Who picks up the phone at the Spanx or the LA Clippers and gets somebody on the other line? It's like, yeah, I was watching Katie Joy, and she said that these people that you're having dancing, that they're in a cult, and they're being waterboarded, and they're being held against their will, and they're human trafficked. So you're hiring human slaves from a cult to be on your show, to be at this halftime game? Well, I'm not coming. And goes, oh, wow, we just got a call that said these dancers that we just hired are in a cult and victims of human trafficking, and they're being waterboarded. Oh, we don't want to have anything to do with them. They're a hot potato. Let's drop them. Who does that? Why? Who's saying that this person who lives out in the middle of nowhere has the influence to do that? Aren't the masses of people who look at this and say that's absolute BS? These are incredibly talented young people. We want to see them and we hope that they are successful. That whatever you're saying doesn't matter. Her channel's big. She's got a big platform, but it's not the largest. There's questions on how she got that big also. Because as I try to grow my community, I have a relationship with most of the people who are on my channel, and I can remember what they said when. We have ongoing conversations. I appreciate them. I thank for their time. It takes time to cultivate that community. And I don't see that she puts in the work to do so. That the outrageous things that she says get the views. Why is that being rewarded? And then why is that being used as a punishment tool for innocent people that have no relationship to her whatsoever? That the things that she puts about them are out there forever. That bell cannot be unrung. Those things said about them cannot be undone. It goes beyond gossip. It is truly defamation in its purest form. Will we have freedom of speech? Defamation is not freedom of speech. I think that, and this is why I've been watching this too, is that I believe that this case could be one that goes to the Supreme Court. In that, with everything going on social media, with as many creators are in court for defamation especially, that legislation needs to outline more clearly the responsibility of creators on social media and what constitutes defamation and the platform that they have, being mindful of that there's freedom of speech. Defamation is not freedom of speech. This is not a freedom of speech issue. This is a defamation issue. And I believe that needs to be made very clear, even at the level of the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court would see this. That even if it goes all the way to appeals, I believe that the work being done right now is that important. Now that it has been on a documentary by Netflix, it's more important than ever to truly look at this for what it is. That this is bullying, harassment, intimidation. For what? How do we go from here and not say that this is secondarily an issue of targeting somebody for their religion? That not only is what she's doing civilly irresponsible, and she's responsible for that civilly, but where do we say that this crosses the line of what is allowed in our American Constitution of freedom of speech, of freedom of religion? Why are we allowing somebody to persecute another for their religion? We don't do that in America. These are the reasons in which I have stated I believe that there could be very, very much bigger eyes looking at this at some point and seeing how it's outlined. Because the other side is going to argue freedom of speech. And it's going to take a judicial dissent to explain the difference between freedom of speech and defamation, and to outline how much damage has been done here and how this damage is going to continue for years. How can Miranda and Derek, Robert Shin, and their company 7M ever be successful, notable, whole? How can you restore them to whole? That's what our judicial system is set up to be. It is set up to make the victims whole again. At this point, it's beyond a monetary number in making them whole again. The emotional hurt is not going to go away. Insecurity is one of the problems here. I believe that Katie Joy is very insecure, so she wishes to make others feel insecure. Insecure is at the heart of it. Jealousy, obsession, unhappiness. I don't think it's greed, but some would say it is. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. This is the intro that will now be for... It should be at the top of the rest of the playlist that has every single thing you want to know factually about what's going on with the lawsuit, and a little bit of chatter and storytelling in between, if you will. So buckle up, get ready to go down this rabbit hole, get some coffee, and thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your input, and I hope that you've joined my community of like-minded people that seek to find the truth between the narrative. Black and white is the headlines. We're in the gray between that black and white because we believe in the truth. And the truth is of paramount importance. Thanks again. Bye-bye.